The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, go Cowboys!
This is Mick Shots.
Streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here are Bill Jones, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola.
And it is time for another edition of Mick Shots inside the SWBC podcast studio on a very busy Thursday here at the Star in Frisco. Yes, it was an early wake-up call for everybody today, including Everson Walls. Right, Everson Walls?
That's right, sir.
What did he have to get up early for?
I had to cancel this meeting.
There you go. As the Cowboys are beating the Heat in an effort to beat the Giants on Sunday night. And speaking of heat, it is at 12 noon in Frisco, Texas, 100 degrees.
Well, that's why they began.
It's going up to 108 today.
Why they began practice at 9 o'clock this morning, and at 9:30, I looked at my phone, and it said 89 degrees, feels like 100 because there was 60% humidity. So I'm guessing that's right about what's going to take place Sunday night in New York.
You know, it's interesting, the 100% humidity.
No, 100 degrees.
100 degrees.
60% humidity.
It's interesting because I just taped the coaches show and just returned from the TV studio. Mike McCarthy.
That's why you're looking so spiffy today.
And he said that it felt cooler on the practice field this morning than it certainly did yesterday.
Yes.
However, the temperature at noon yesterday was 91 degrees, and at noon today it's 100 degrees. And
I think the sun was more intense yesterday.
Yeah, well.
I bet there was a room full of IVs going after that practice.
The hottest game I've ever played, Atlanta Falcons. I think it was like 125 in Texas Stadium. That was a lot.
In Texas Stadium.
In Texas Stadium.
Because, they used to have that thermometer, that round, looked like an old clock on the wall there. And I remember doing pregame shows. Holy cow.
You know, that was really inhumane when you think about it.
And it wasn't 100.
I mean, it's inhumane.
There's no breeze.
No air.
No air.
Then they got
an artificial turf.
Remember, they upgraded to fans.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't know what the heck that was all about, but it just swirled around.
And the way
the
way the roof was constructed, there wasn't a lot of air coming in. Yeah.
Texas Stadium always felt hotter when it was hot and colder when it was cold for some reason. I guess all the concrete.
I can't believe we were allowed to play there and subject the fans to that kind of heat. It was against the Falcons, if I recall, and they were doing the run and shoot. So I was running my ass off up and down the field all day long with this guy. It was hilarious. And they never threw him the ball because, the run and shoot, they usually concentrate on the slot.
Did you ever play in a hot game that you needed an IV?
No.
Never?
No.
Because, guys, I was asking Zach Martin, if he ever had to take an IV like during the game, and he said, yeah, at halftime.
Yeah.
And I said, how long does it take? And he goes, well, you just get as much as you can, and then your 12 minutes are up and you got to go. I said, do they sit there and squeeze the bag to make it go faster? And he goes, sometimes. Hey, I remember in Wichita Falls when they were doing two-a-days, as hot as it was for training camp. They basically had a room set up for IVs so they can do multiple at the same time. And guys were getting them left and right after that morning practice. The morning practice, right? Yeah.
I remember I went out there. I was working with, I can't remember. I was working with Fox, working with Ducey. And I brought my 10-speed out there because I stayed out there for a while.
Yeah.
And I brought my 10-speed. It was hot.
That's
on
why
the way
they called
to the first practice.
That's why they called their bike race in August the Hotter Than Hell 100.
And I
right?
thought about that every time I went to practice.
So, because of the heat, everything got started earlier today.
Yes.
And we've already had the locker room availability. Mickey has just returned from the locker room, and you just mentioned you talked with Zach Martin, and Was this Dak Day too?
This was Dak Day, and I think he
is that official?
must have said about
Thursday's Dak Day.
I did not know that.
must have said like 3 times that he feels as comfortable as he's ever been getting ready to start a season. So he said, my confidence is at an all-time high.
It always is. That's nothing.
That's the way it should be when you start a season, right? You're kind of ready to go. So we saw our portion of practice, and Tyler Smith was still doing rehab work with Britt Brown, the Cowboys trainer. He was on the cords, and I'll tell you what, he was moving pretty good. Mm-hmm. If you got a really tight hamstring, it's hard to do lunges, right? And he was doing lunges. He was doing the side steps on the cords, backwards, forward. And then near the end of their little workout, he was doing side steps, but at a faster pace. Uh-huh. So it looked like that he was doing better, improving. And as Mike McCarthy said, that we'll see if he can participate in their workout they do Saturday before they leave for the game. He goes, that would be the last threshold. And if he's able to participate then he said he should be good to go. So that was a good sign, let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. So what happens if he is not good to go?
Well, from what it looked like during that, and it's hard to tell how they're lining up. They're so far away from us, but it seems like that Chuma Edoga has been taking snaps there in place of Tyler Smith.
Okay.
And they have other guys they've worked in also. So, Harlow.
Sean Harlow, who was just picked up. He was in the Giants.
He's on the
camp.
practice squad.
On the practice squad, that's right.
So
Signed
you
to
would
the
have
practice
to
squad.
have to move him.
We talked about him earlier in the week. He actually started 3 games for Arizona last year.
So he has some
experience,
right? T.J. Bass, he still sort of on the right side guy. Although I asked him how his hand on the ball was going, and he said, "Oh, it's better." But he doesn't get to do it in practice. It's before and when they do the quarterback thing before practice, and then some shotgun after. And he goes, "Actually, the shotgun's coming along better than under center." And I said, "Why is that?" And he goes, "Well, shotgun, you got a little margin for error. The ball can go here or there." He goes, "But when you're under center, you got to be accurate, like hit his hand right where you're supposed to hit it, right?"
Do we have any left-handed centers?
In the league?
Yeah.
That's a random question I never thought of before.
About that. I just see. There you go.
Yeah.
That's a prerequisite.
Is it easier, left-handed, right-handed?
Just like you can't be a left-handed shortstop in
Why
baseball.
Can't you? Can you?
And it's real hard to be a left-handed third baseman, too.
That's right.
Crazy.
Yeah. And
see,
so
that's what I'm here for,
you
guys.
can't be a left-handed center in the NFL. I've never thought of that before.
I mean, as long as you get the seams up there, right?
I think that if it's the direct snap versus the shotgun.
Yeah, there'd be more
but the direct
direct
snap,
one.
Yeah.
Although a left-footed punter, it comes for the return man on a left-footed punt. It's different than maybe
what
it
happens?
be for a left-handed
the ball,
snap too.
the ball.
I would get them on purpose, just to screw up.
Well, Chris Jones was a left-handed punter.
Yeah,
or
and left-footed. Yeah, left-handed. Well, he might have been left-handed
He
too.
might have,
Come on.
yeah.
And his ball, the spin of it would cause the nose to kind of back up, right? So I remember the first game he kicked. And before the game, Chris Boniel, the Cowboys' former place kicker, he was the special teams assistant at that time, kicking coach. And he told me that it was against the Giants, I want to say, and it was up there. And he said, they will fumble 2 punts. I go, what do you mean? He goes, he's left-footed, and his ball backs up. And I'll be darned if they didn't fumble the first one and one later in the game because they misjudged where they're figuring it's landing here, but it backed up on them, and they had to move up further. So there's something to a left-footed punter, Bill.
All right. Kansas City plays Detroit tonight. Mm-hmm. There's the Kansas City center, Creed Humphrey, a left-handed center. You can check him out tonight.
That's crazy.
Yep, the former Oklahoma Sooner. And
wait,
by the way, he's
no one under
of,
center behind him.
He's one of the best centers in the National Football
So did you
League.
Google left-handed centers?
We have a producer supreme.
Oh, very good.
Kept it a secret. We didn't get to hear.
Producer supreme Chris Beam tipped me off to that. Creed Humphrey.
Way to go, Chris.
Well, very
left-handed
nice.
center.
So I guess it doesn't make a difference because Mahomes doesn't seem to show it.
Have no
The other
problem
thing,
at all.
the other thing in practice of significance, Sam Williams, who didn't do much of anything yesterday, he's got turf toe. He was in uniform and he was going through all the drills and had a helmet on in the practice part that we saw. So that looked, optimistic now that he should be ready to go. He was one of the other ones. Donovan Wilson, I think we talked about it yesterday. He would have been still rehabbing, but his lady, I don't know, wife, girlfriend, whatever, was having a baby today.
Oh, wow.
So he was at the hospital. Not for his sake.
Significant.
Right,
other.
significant. Or thank you. I was trying to figure that out. And Jordan Lewis continues to practice, but I just don't see him playing in this game. It's just too soon.
He's off the PUP list, right?
Yeah.
right.
He's active.
Yep.
But he
Now the coach talked glowingly about where
Right.
he is.
I know.
Right now.
It'd be interesting if they one padded practice and they say, okay, you're good to go after you haven't played since maybe October of last year.
He's still ramping up.
Ramp up. I think that's what you
All right, I have a
call it.
question about the offensive line.
Okay.
And especially with the Tyler Smith injury. Okay. So the way you look at it as far as the backups on the offensive line, you mentioned Chuma Edoga as the possibility at left guard. So Awesome Richards would be the backup at both left tackle, and he's like third in line at left guard. Now Tyler Smith, if anything were to happen to Tyler Smith is a guy
would
that
move over.
would kick out to tackle like he did last year.
So because of their lack of depth on the offensive line, I think they can withstand one thing, but now it gets a little more complicated if somebody else gets hurt, right? Especially one of the tackles, because now with Tyler Smith sort of iffy at this point anyway, although I do think he's improving, if something happened to one of the tackles, Tyler Smith could go play tackle. And then you just find a guard.
But if Tyler's unavailable, then your backup tackles. Now, Edoga can play tackle.
Yes, he can. Awesome Richards can play tackle.
And then on the practice squad, you've got Earl Bostic.
Yeah, I don't think you want to go
and
there.
Alex Taylor-Prelo.
I don't think you want to go there either.
So that's just giving you an idea
of the
what's
lack
on the roster, both on the 53 and in the practice squad.
And so when we talk
tackles.
about what worries you about this team, or where is a kind of a worrisome position, it's the depth on the offensive line, and we're kind of seeing it right now.
And that also underscores the value of a healthy Tyler Smith,
right?
Because he would be next man up at left tackle,
right? And then you need a guard. Now, Edoga could do that. I mentioned T.J. Bass, but he's been more right side. Awesome Richards has played both spots, left side. But again, he's a fifth-round draft choice.
Is this going on every team in the league?
Other teams are
in
having.
regards to
I don't know if it's
line.
the offensive line.
Yeah.
and not having backups that are proven.
Yeah.
When we were when I was talking with Zach Martin yesterday, one of the things that he pointed out is, if you look around the league, if teams have 6 offensive linemen they're good with, that's about where it's at. But after that, it gets a little thin because there's just not a lot of offensive linemen.
So then the answer to my question is yes.
And that's why somebody says go trade for somebody.
Right.
Very few teams have excess, right? It's like, okay, we can trade this guy.
So why is it that there aren't enough offensive linemen?
Because no one.
You got in college football, you've got dozens of teams with 5 offensive linemen on each team that start, and you can't get enough offensive linemen that can make the transition to the NFL.
Well, because the blocking in the college is a lot simpler. Basically, you're standing up and you're pass blocking.
So they're not getting developed.
Right. And
we're hitting on something here, Bill.
And as I was talking
because wide receivers, you got wide receivers aplenty. You got running backs aplenty.
Tight ends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tight ends
and they're all
over
good.
the place.
They're all good.
Here's the answer. Nobody grows up and says, God, I just want to go play guard. It doesn't happen. You know, I got into the discussion with Zach yesterday, and I said, so when you were growing up, did you want to play guard? Just like that. And he goes, I was actually on defense. And he goes, and I was a defensive lineman, and then somewhere at the end of high school to Notre Dame, I became an offensive lineman. I said, but you didn't grow up wanting to play guard? And he laughed. He goes, no.
I got to say, I would do, if I was a big guy, I would love to play offense.
Well, you
because you can pancake people, you just get to beat everybody up. I mean, to me, it seems like the perfect position for a large human being with athletic ability.
Your percentages of if you can get good of succeeding are higher because there's fewer candidates on the offensive line.
It seems like they really get a charge out of. Not really. They could care less if anyone knows who they are. But if we're driving down the field, no one takes more pride in that than an offensive line.
But if you're good, you want to play tackle, right? And if you're kind of good, you want to play center. Those are the spots that get paid.
True.
The guards
but there are also
usually
prerequisites.
don't get paid.
You have to have a certain length to play tackle, longer arms.
And I told you my story about Joe Brodsky, right?
I'm not sure.
He was a very successful high school head coach in Miami. Cowboys former running back coach. He's passed away since. And we were talking about it one day, and he goes, well, let me explain it to you. And he goes, so the first day of practice in high school, I got a new team. He goes, we go out and we do some things, and I go, okay, that's the best athlete there. There's my quarterback. The next best athlete, well, that's my running back. And he goes, and then after that, wide receiver, cornerback, defensive end, linebackers, okay. And then he goes, I look around and look at all the other guys and go, the rest of you, offensive linemen. And there's some truth to it, I think.
There is much truth to that.
Right?
But as you develop as a player,
right.
I'm back to the point. The satisfaction that they have as a unit.
Right.
As a unit, they might be the closest unit on almost every team. And they usually have a lot of intellect there.
Right.
So I don't know. To me, if I had the build, if I had the wherewithal, I would love playing.
That's what I wanted to do. And look at the other leagues out there, right? There's not enough offensive linemen to go around to help the skilled people. The quarterbacks are at the mercy.
Even in the other league.
Yeah, that's the worst part of those leagues, because you got skilled people, but if you can't block for them, then it kind of diminishes what they can do.
Okay, and as we go to break here, I've got a Joe Brodsky trivia question for you.
Oh, wow.
Okay, you talked about his high school coaching laurels in Miami.
Yes.
Okay, can you name one of the players that he coached who would later become an assistant coach for the Dallas Cowboys?
What?
Coach Joe.
Oh,
Joe
that's
Avezzano.
right. That's right. I forgot that part. Oh, get those two together. Oh my gosh, the stories that they would tell, and Joe would sit there and go, "Yeah, okay, Joe, go ahead, lay it on the line."
And by the way, another little tidbit on Joe Brodsky's high school career. One of his high school teammates, Lee Corso. And we continue with more
only on Mick Shots
in just a moment.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Cowboys football and Miller Lite. What a pairing. Can cracks at kickoff. Tailgates going way past postgame. Sunday night overtimes followed by Monday morning swagger. Brisket in the smoker. Miller Lite in the cooler. America's team playing America's greatest sport. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Back to Mick Shots.
K-Post Roofing and Waterproofing, the official roofer of the Dallas Cowboys here on Mick Shots.
Very nice read there by Mickey Spagnola.
And by the way, since
give him more credit,
we saw people
off the top of his head
walking by here last night on our crosstalk show on the Fan upstairs at the Cowboys Club.
Oh, okay.
Our guest was Joe Looney.
Yeah.
Nate Newton, myself, Kevin Gray.
He's a high school coach now, isn't he?
Yeah, no, he's a teacher.
Oh.
He was coaching last year, and he had to coach and teach.
Yeah.
And he realized, I might as well be back in the NFL. I'm working all day long, right? And he said, so he's got a teaching degree, and he's teaching history at a charter school in Frisco.
Well,
nice.
He was in the spring. He was at one of the Frisco schools, and I saw him on draft night.
Uh-huh.
And he played for Mike Solari at San Francisco.
San Francisco when they won the Super
Right,
Bowl.
and so I was picking his brain. Okay, it's draft night. What kind of offensive lineman does Mike Solari like? Whatever. And so anyway, he told me that he was coaching at a Frisco high school. I can't remember which one.
I think it was Wakeland.
Okay, and so we'll come out and do a story on you. And we called the head coach, and he said we were going to come out during spring ball and do a story on Looney. He said, well, why don't you wait until the fall to do that story? So maybe he had an idea that this wasn't going to last very long.
But anyway, so we're in the middle of the show last night. And upstairs in the club, and who comes walking by but Jerry Jones? And he stops, and he looks, and he goes, oh, here are four of my favorite guys here. And he started talking, and it's like, oh, do we have a stick mic? Give him a headset. And he stood there and talked for about a minute, right? But you could hear
while you were on the air?
Yeah, you could hear it. I could hear it in my headset, so I'm assuming it got on the air. It was
Where can
funny.
we find that to listen to it?
105.3 The Fan,
okay.
I guess.
All right.
And it might be on DallasCowboys.com.
All right, changing subjects.
Yes.
You saw the contract that Nick Bosa agreed to?
He can afford an island right now.
5-year, $170 million contract that includes $122.5 million in guarantees.
That's like almost
Who do you think is the
million.
happiest man in America right now besides Nick Bosa?
Micah Parsons says, I don't worry about anybody else.
That's the first thing I thought of when he signed that contract. Like, okay, Mike is looking.
He was like, good for him.
I can see the future now.
Right? Yeah. And I'm sure some jaws dropped upstairs knowing how much they're probably going to have to pay.
Well, I just
Micah
happened
Parsons.
to be in the control room as Nick Eatman was interviewing Stephen Jones for Special Edition. He was asking Stephen about Micah, and he asked about the Nick Bosa contract. He brought it up and said that Micah is very – and maybe it was Stephen actually may have said about how happy Micah must be to see that contract. And then Nick had a great line. He said, so – does that bring a smile to your face too?
And he said,
"You'll have to watch it on a special edition right here." But yeah, and okay, it's game night.
So do you think he? Well, do you think he plays? Hadn't been to training camp.
Micah?
Bosa.
Oh, no, Bosa. I knew that fact. I knew that.
Yeah, he's playing.
Keep up.
I just saw Kyle Shanahan was doing an interview, and they just showed it on NFL Network. He said that the only way that Nick Bosa doesn't play on Sunday is if he's got a beer belly.
LT did that when I came in 1990 to the Giants. He didn't all the training camp. He was out, didn't do anything. He comes in and gets 3 sacks against Philly for the opener, and that showed me.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to get a whole lot of picks that year. Matter of fact, he was chasing Randall down on our first third down play, and I got an interception because LT was making a run for his life. So, yeah, that made me feel real good. Proof is in the pudding.
Well, Emmett missed 2 training camps and played very quickly, as a matter of fact.
And got off.
Right?
I mean, all the way
that
to
93,
the bowl.
That 93 season?
Bowl, yes.
Yep, absolutely.
One of the best ever.
If Chris Jones signs this afternoon, would he play tonight for the Kansas City Chiefs?
He said he was ready.
Yesterday, he was at a charity event in Kansas City. He said, "You get me signed, I'll be out there." So, okay, when we come back here on Mick Shots, we are going to be joined by a New York Giants insider. We're going behind enemy lines when we come back in just a moment.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Cowboys football and Miller Lite. What a pairing. Can cracks at kickoff. Tailgates going way past postgame. Sunday night overtimes followed by Monday morning swagger. Brisket in the smoker. Miller Lite in the cooler. America's team playing America's greatest sport. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Back to Mick Shots.
Experience the feeling of game day every day at Miller Lighthouse at the Star. Now just open, just steps from the Tostita Championship Plaza, Miller Lite House features a cooler full of grab-and-go beverages and snacks, tailgate games, a recharging lounge, Dallas Cowboys photo op, and complimentary concierge services. For more info, visit starinfrisco.com/Miller Lite House.
And we love hearing that word cooler. Because right now, here in Frisco, it's 102 degrees on the way up to 108 degrees, which is why the Cowboys worked out this morning here at the Star in Frisco. And we're now joined by John Schmelk, New York Giants insider, and Mickey, the official title, senior manager, editorial, and audio content. John Schmelk, we appreciate you joining us here on Mick Shots. Mickey's been telling us how hot it is at the U.S. Open because he's been watching it past midnight here every night. So how hot is it today there in Giants land?
Yeah, based on your forecast of what's happening in Dallas, I'm going to choose not to complain about the fact that it's 95 degrees and like 90% humidity, which is it's pretty terrible. But based on what you guys are talking about, I'd rather be here.
So we just want to know, are the Giants practicing outdoors in this weather?
Well, believe it or not, the Giants, because, it was a long weekend with Labor Day, they practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week. So today's actually a player off day, which is a little bit different. And then they'll be back practicing again tomorrow. But they have been outside all week this week, and it has been in the 90s. So, yes, they are preparing for Sunday night when it should be pretty steamy. It's kind of chance of thunderstorms on Sunday, but the temperature should get down to reasonable areas by the evening.
So in that stadium, do I have special rooms for the IVs?
For the for fans or players?
The fans, they'll be liquidated, right? Or not liquidated. Liquefied.
The Cowboys have their regeneration days on Friday in the Mike McCarthy era here, and then they'll actually get a little workout in on Saturday. That's when we'll learn the status for Tyler Smith, the Cowboys left guard, whether he'll be able to play on Sunday night. How are things looking injury-wise for the Giants this week?
The Giants have a bunch of guys that are limited, but it's not many guys that you would consider to be, huge parts of their game plan. A lot of special teamers like Gary Brightwell, Cam Brown, Lawrence Cager as a backup tight end, Cordell Flott, Javarius Owens, backup defensive backs, and then Wando Robinson, who's coming off an ACL last year. So, none of those guys are probably going to be huge factors in the game plan anyhow. They're all limited. I think most of them would be questionable or they'd be ready to go on Sunday night. So the Giants, at least from their perspective, they're pretty healthy, and I think they feel pretty good about where they're at. What's your guys' feeling? Do you think Tyler Smith's going to go? Do you think Wilson and Williams are going to go? Or do you think they're going to be game-time decisions?
I think for Tyler Smith, it'll be a game-time decision. We talked about that today. He's still rehabbing, so they're going to wait until Saturday to see just where he's at before they take off. So as for the other guys, Sam Williams was probably limited in practice, so that was better than did not practicing yesterday. And Donovan Wilson, he hasn't practiced yet, and he didn't again today. So there's very little chance he'd be ready to go.
Good to know.
Are we supposed to be divulging information to him like this?
There's an official practice report, right?
Mickey is reading that off the practice report.
He sounded like he was digging for information. So yeah.
Well, you're a former Giant and a former Cowboy, Everson. So,
and having said that, I'm trying to look at these DBs.
I knew that's where you were going.
I have been looking at these young guys. Deonte Banks. Tell me about him and. Tell me, is he going to be locked up with CeeDee Lamb all day long?
And the other rookie corner, Trey Hawkins, too.
Yeah, and Everson, I think you're looking at the right spot because I think those are going to be really important matchups in this game. My guess is that Adoree Jackson is going to be locked up on CeeDee Lamb most of this game.
He's got the veteran,
Yeah, they're going to put the veteran on him, and he's basically going to be there. In base, he'll be their outside corner, and then in sub packages, he'll move inside. And CD plays inside so much, as you guys know, obviously, that I think he'll follow him for most of the game, which means you're going to have the two rookies, Deonte Banks and Trey Hawkins, playing outside. And they're going to be against two really good players in Gallup and Cooks for a lot of this game. And both those guys are size, speed, length athletes. Banks was one of the best athletes in the draft, or a sub 4.4 really long, good kid, plays really tight coverage, and he's really fast. Hawkins, obviously from a smaller program, Old Dominion, he was a sixth-round pick, but he has the length. He's over 6 foot. He ran a 4.4. He's obviously just not as seasoned as Banks is coming out of a bigger program in the Big Ten in Maryland. So they're going to play a lot of press man. They're going to try to get physical at the line of scrimmage. Maybe some issues with some back shoulder stuff if you run them across the field maybe. But in those, small truncated areas near the sideline, if you're trying to work an X against them in one-on-one, they're going to be pretty physical and they're going to play pretty tight coverage. So they've shown a lot in the camp. They've shown a lot in preseason, but I don't have to tell you guys it's much different under the bright lights on Sunday Night Football against 3 really good wide receivers like Dallas has. So that is going to be a huge factor in terms of how those guys handle the Cowboys receivers in terms of how this Giants defense is going to fare.
When it comes to Dak Prescott, we just had a report that he said he feels better than he's ever felt at the beginning of a season. I've heard different philosophies against Dak Prescott. Do the Giants think that it's best to play man-to-man and press and make Dak make quick decisions, or do they feel like it's better to play zone against him based on the interceptions that he had all last year?
Yeah, the Giants played the highest percentage of cover 0 and cover 1 than any other team in the league last year. That's what they're going to do. I'd be shocked if they did it. Now, at the end of the year last year, when they played the Vikings in the playoffs and they had Justin Jefferson, they did play a little bit more zone. So you might see them roll some of that in, but the Giants are still at their core a cover 1, 0 blitz. Set the tempo on defense themselves. That's what Wink Martindale does, and I would not expect it to deviate too much from that on Sunday night.
So that Hawkins is starting at corner, was that the plan, or did somebody get beaten out and he earned the spot as one of your top 3 corners?
He earned it. To start the year, the plan was to have Banks and Adoree Jackson outside, and then Darnay Holmes was going to return as the inside cornerback. And Hawkins played so well outside in camp that they needed to find a way to get him on the field. So they moved Jackson inside in those sub packages, and the kid's just been really, really strong, which I and it's funny, I was talking with the defensive back coaches and I asked them, you guys surprised that, Hawkins has come along so quickly? He goes, yeah, if we knew he was going to be this good, we wouldn't have waited until the 6th round to take him.
And it's not unprecedented for a 5th or 6th round draft pick his rookie year. I mean, here recently in the league, Tariq Woolen at Seattle, who ran a 4.25 or something like that. And he's like 6'4" out of UTSA. He's from Fort Worth, Arlington Heights. He had a Pro Bowl season his rookie year last year. I want to ask you about Kayvon Thibodeaux because, we watch Micah Parsons in practice and training camp, and it's either the Cowboys offensive tackles are really bad or Micah Parsons is really, really good. How about Thibodeaux? As when we went up there in September last year, he was coming off his injury, wasn't at full tilt yet. Going into his second year, how has he looked in training camp?
Yeah, better. Healthy for one. I talked to him yesterday, and he said he feels as healthy as he's been since he's been here. Once you sprain a ligament in your knee, you come back. It's never right until you really rest it in the off season. So he did play much better at the end of last year. He came on the last 5 or 6 games. His pressure rate went up. So, yeah, I think him and Azeez Ojulari, too. I think Ojulari is actually probably a better pure pass rusher. He's a little bendier. He gets a little bit lower to the ground in terms of running that arc around the offensive tackle. But look, I think one bet the Giants are making this year are those 2 edge players play a little bit more consistently. Ojulari missed a lot of time last year with calf injuries, and they can bring a little bit more of a consistent pass rush along the edge. And I think they have high hopes for both those guys. And I will say this about Thibodeaux. It's funny. The worry about him coming in was, is he going to be focused on football, dedication and practice and all that stuff, and run defense? That's really what he's been great at. He hasn't been like the super explosive, consistent sack guy like everyone thought he was going to be. It's been the other stuff that honestly has really impressed me since he's been here.
John, if we go to the other side of the ball, I know one of the things the Giants wanted to improve on was the offensive line. How has that unit looked getting ready for this season opener, and particularly being able to protect Daniel Jones?
Andrew Thomas is awesome. I will use the same line that Bill used talking about Micah Parsons. Either Andrew Thomas is really good or the Giants' edge rushers are really bad, because I don't think he lost a rep in pass protection one-on-ones all summer. He's just phenomenal at left tackle. But he was good last year, too. The question of the other guys, right? Evan Neal at right tackle, I think the team really needs him to take a jump this year. He had issues last year. Remember that DeMarcus Lawrence in that first game had the 3 sacks against him on the right side. So he's looked better in the summer. He missed a couple weeks with a concussion. So I think they hope there's improvement there. And then they're starting a rookie center in John Michael Schmitz. Really good mentally. He's a 6-year player out of Minnesota, second-round pick. He's figured that much out. I think he'll be okay. He struggles maybe with power a little bit sometimes on the inside. And then the guard position is interesting. They haven't really announced who their starting guards are. It's Mark Lewinsky, Ben Bredesen, and Josh Azudu, who was a third-round pick last year. And for the last 2 weeks at camp, they've really rotated those 3 guys. And Brian Daboll has said that if he thinks it makes sense in the matchup, he'd be willing to rotate those 3 guys within games. So we don't quite know who those guards are going to be. My guess is he'll go with the veterans, Lewinsky at right guard, Bredesen at left guard. But with Dallas and all their twists and stunts on the defensive line, I think that's a good thing to watch over the course of that game, too.
John Schmelk, New York Giants insider, with us here on Mick Shots and elsewhere on offense. Of course, the Giants have needed playmakers, and they've added a couple. They've added speed at wide receiver with the third-round pick Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee, Paris Campbell, the free agent signee who had 63 catches last year with the Colts, and then, of course, the receiving tight end Darren Waller. Everybody's talking about him, right?
And Waller's the guy. I mean, he's might be a tight end, but he's their number 1 receiver. If he stays healthy all year, he's going to catch 80 balls. He's going to have 1,000 yards. Now, will he stay healthy all year? He hasn't been able to. That's the ultimate question, right? But he hasn't missed, aside from veteran days, he has not missed one practice in camp due to an injury. So he's been very good. He's a legit 6'6", a legit 250, but he moves like a guy that's 6'3", 220. He's just an athletic freak show. Daniel Jones and him have gotten chemistry very quick early. He's his favorite target in practice. You know, they run him on those option routes, those Y options in the middle of the field, let him do, just find room and get open. So he's going to be a primary target. And to your point, they added a bunch of speed in addition to that. They drafted Jalen Hyatt, a 4.4 guy. He's not probably one of their top 3 receivers right now. He's probably their 4th, but he's going to play, 20, 25 snaps in this game, I would bet. And he's a really fast, legitimate vertical target. And then Paris Campbell is kind of that, run after the catch the short pass, some gadget stuff maybe in there too, player that'll be mostly in the slot to start the game that they'll try to get the ball to and kind of let him make a play with his legs. So, they still don't have that number 1A or maybe even, 2A wide receiver, but they think they've added speed in Waller, which should make the pass offense more explosive, which is a huge goal this offseason. They finished next to last in passes of 20 more yards last year. They know that has to get better if they want to try to challenge in the division.
So, John, your overall assessment, you've been there for quite some time. You've seen these Giants teams. They go 9-7-1 last year and won a playoff game. Your feeling about this team, where it's at, and what do you think they're capable of this year?
I think they've closed the gap talent-wise with Dallas and Philly, who I consider Dallas, Philly, and San Fran kind of the top tier of the NFC, right? Their talent's closer. I want to see in games how much closer they are and whether or not they've caught them. Because I'm not sure they're there yet. They're still very young in a lot of spots, and it's only year 2 of the regime. But the talent's certainly better. They're a very well-coached team on both sides of the ball. Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka have done a really good job with this offense, utilizing Daniel Jones with his legs and with his arm. Wink Martindale, like I mentioned, all the blitzes. He sets the tempo on defense. So I think they're a better team than they were last year for sure, as you guys well know, because they have very similar schedules. The schedule is a lot tougher this year, playing the AFC East instead of the AFC South. So I'm not sure their record's going to be that much better, but I know the talent's a lot better. But I think the game against Dallas and Philly and San Francisco this year will be very telling as to how much the Giants have closed that gap. If they were in the AFC South or NFC North or NFC South, I think they'd be competing for the division title. And I think whether or not they can, beat Dallas in week 1 will go a long way towards us deciding if they can challenge for the NFC East title.
That's funny. I think we pointed that out. Bill pointed that out if they were in a different division yesterday, that they would be favorites to win that division.
I was the one who said the Giants would be favored. Mickey was
I said Bill pointed it out.
He did say that. That's true.
All right.
I want on a personal level, how's Sterling doing?
Sterling Shepard. We love Sterling.
Oh, Shep's awesome. He's such a positive guy, and he's ready to go, man. Like, he was running routes by June in minicamp, and then he got activated off a pup 2 weeks into camp. He's playing a preseason game. He caught a punt. I think this will be a wide receiver by committee, and I think he's going to be part of it. He's such a good dude. We're all rooting for him. We're so happy. And I talked to him, by the way. His GPS numbers are either identical or a little bit better than they were pre-ACL and pre-Achilles injury.
Nice.
So he's feeling pretty good.
And, of course, it was against the Cowboys last year when he went down with the injury. John?
And the year before, he tore his ACL. He tore his Achilles against Dallas. So 2 straight years he had season-ending injuries against the Cowboys.
Wow. Well, maybe sit him out then, okay?
That's right. We like him too much. We don't need – and he also scores touchdowns against the Cowboys. Good idea. Just sit him. John Schmelk, I just subscribed to Giants Huddle, and I can't wait to listen to your podcast over the next few days getting ready for Sunday night. And Mickey wants to know if you have tickets for him for the U.S. Open this weekend when he arrives in town.
I can work on that for you, Mick, if you want me to.
I don't think we'll get in time to see anything on Saturday, and Sunday ends up being a long day.
Yes, I was going to say, good luck trying to get from New Jersey to Queens. That's about a 2.5-hour drive. So have fun with that.
Well, John, work on that weather for us, would you?
Yeah, I probably can't help you with that either.
Okay. John Schmelk, we appreciate it. And check him out, Giants Huddle Podcast as well. And that does it for Mick Shots.
All right, good.
Okay, all right. We will reconvene for a fabulous football Friday tomorrow at noon.
Go Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!